Thank you, Mr. President. So, what AM 2868 does, and I've been kind of buzzing around the floor working this morning quickly, and I tried to speak to Senator Bostar, but he wasn't on the floor at the time when I started working, and then I started working with Senator Sanders, and now he's here, and then stuff was going on with the other amendment, so it's all moving parts right now, but very good faith, very serious. So what this amendment does is it adds my bill, and I'm pulling it up right now, it adds my bill LB 74, colleagues, if you want to pull that up on your gadget. LB 74 is a bill that I introduced last year and have introduced year after year after year here to allow campaign funds to be used for child travel, for expenses for the office holder's minor child, so it has to be the office holder's child and a minor, related to the duties of the office holder. Currently in statute, it says that you can use campaign funds for travel for the office holder and staff for duties related to the work of the office, but it doesn't include minor children. So what this amendment does is it just adds that. It also adds a line saying child care services incurred by an office holder when the office holder is involved in activities related to the duties of the office holder. So that's a helpful thing too. I'll tell you personally, you know, I think that fundraising for daycare is not a realistic thing. Like, that's not how, if this amendment is adopted, how that's going to work and actually be used. How it could be used is if I'm at a conference and I have a minor child, if I have a 7-year-old child, maybe there's like a daycare at the hotel that I can use while I'm giving a talk or on a panel, and then that's something I can take advantage of. That's a very, very common thing. And then because the child care is related to my duties as an office holder when I'm actually in the process of carrying out my duties as a state senator, then I can use my campaign funds to pay the hourly fee or whatever it is for that daycare at the hotel or something like that. That is a probable and realistic way that this amendment could be put into effect in reality. As far as the child travel, you know, it's always kind of blown my mind that I could pay for my entire staff to come to a Council of State Governments conference with me in Honolulu, but if I have a 7-year-old kid who needs to come with me because I'm a single parent, I can't use the funds for her as well. So I think that this amendment is meaningful and important because it opens the door for more candidates to be able to see elected office as something that's possible for them. You know, we incur a lot of expenses here, and the money we make doesn't even begin to cover them. And so I think that if we are willing to say that campaign funds can be used for security services and systems, I think that letting office holders buy a plane ticket for their little kids so they can accompany them to a conference that they have to go to, I think that's also a reasonable expense. I've been working with Senator Sanders, who is the chairwoman of Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs. That's the committee through which LB 774 came. And we want to have an exec on it, like right now. And we're waiting for Dick Clark to come, so maybe we can do that. But it's also true, colleagues, that a bill doesn't have to be out of committee in order to be amended to a bill. It's kind of a best practice. I know the Speaker has said that that's the way he wants things done. But I think that we could exec on this bill and get it out, or we could vote on this amendment. And I would like to hear what my colleagues think. I'm going to continue to walk around and talk to folks and see if we can get this attached. I will yield the rest of my time so I can get back to doing that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, colleagues, I've consulted with Scott Danigal at the NADC, and they sent me a letter on January 31st, 2020 that was an advisory opinion saying that, well, it was an opinion saying that a bill like one encompassed in AM 2868, which is LB 74, would be needed in order for the travel of minor children to be appropriate use of campaign funds. In the analysis of that opinion, so before that, there was another advisory opinion, which is Advisory Opinion 133, and that's what I'm holding right now. And it pertains to a request from a former state senator about travel for his wife, but it also discusses a broader question about family and children and things like that. And in the analysis for that opinion, the NADC states, the NADC Act does not encompass travel for family members incidentally, so if our spouses decide to attend, or our children, we have to pick up the costs out of personal funds, and I think that is proper. So in the analysis for that advisory opinion, the Commission found that the state senators have to pick up the cost for their child's travel out of personal funds. I agree with what Senator Klaus said about family first. And when we are elected officials, we have to put our families first. And that's why I have brought my child with me every opportunity I've ever gotten to travel with me for my work as a state senator. That's the way in my family, how we put family first. In these 8 years, my child has gotten to travel all over the country. She's had a lesson in civics education in a genus unlike any other of her classmates because of my duties as an office holder. And I introduced these bills because campaign finance laws in Nebraska were not written in anticipation of single parents or low-income parents ever in public service. Elected officials work hard to earn the contributions they use to travel for work, their campaign funds, and they shouldn't be prevented from doing that just because they have little kids. It makes no sense to me that I could use my campaign funds to take the entire legislature out for drinks tonight, but I couldn't take my kid to a conference that I'm required to attend. And of course, the passage of this bill will cost nothing to taxpayers, and it would be reportable to the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure Commission. So that's why I also don't accept arguments like Senator Kauth's that this would lead to abuse or fraud or waste, because all of this reporting would be accountable. I'll also add that it's not in the best interest of an elected official generally to use campaign funds to pay for travel costs or for child care or anything like that, because that could be hundreds of dollars, it could be thousands of dollars, and that's all money that comes out of the pot for things like literature, yard signs, canvassing, mail, but it would help them do the job that they're elected to do. So I don't think that there's a realistic threat of somebody raising $1 million and using it all to pay for child care. That's not realistic, and that's not the intention of the amendment. This amendment makes it easier for single and low-income parents to do public service. It's completely relevant to LB 986 in terms of appropriate use of campaign funds. And it's a policy that I've been working on since 2019 because it's something that affected my life personally. And I've heard from candidates across the political spectrum ever since about why policy like this would be so helpful and important to them. I've appreciated the questions of colleagues like Senator Bostar, Senator Hallstrom, to clarify the need for this amendment in order for funds to be permissibly used in this way. And I'm eager for an up or down vote on this policy. Conservative colleagues in the body, if this amendment is not successful, I urge one of you to take up this bill next year. I've often thought if somebody like Senator Slama introduced this, it would have been the law 100 years ago, right? You all know that I'm right. And I urge you in this case, colleagues, not to let your bias about the introducer color your vote on this bill. It's a good policy. It only applies to minor children. And it's not going to be abused because it's going to be completely accountable to the Accountability and Disclosure Commission, which is run by some of the best staff that we have in the state. I urge your green vote on AM 2868 and LB 986. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognized open.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another bite at the apple. I'm going to withdraw this amendment, but I wanted to first explain what it is. This is a floor amendment, so it's something that we drafted quickly, and the clerk's office helped me draft quickly. I went up and described to them what I wanted. I said, if the motion fails, if my amendment fails, I want to draft the exact same amendment, but without the child care portion. So what this floor amendment says is conference fees, meals, lodging, and travel by the office holder's minor children, which is the new matter, and the office holder's staff when the office holder or staff is involved in activities related to the duties of the office holder. So what this floor amendment would do is just say the travel, not the child care. That would alleviate Senator Kauth's problems with the bill since she doesn't want to support the child care, but from the vote on the previous measure, I'm going to withdraw this amendment and move on with the vote on LB 986. Once again, I'm grateful to continue working with the NADC to perhaps issue a new advisory opinion so that maybe there can be kind of just more of a regulatory change to allow this to happen instead of a law, which I'm always in favor of. But again, colleagues, if this is not successful, this will persist and continue to be a problem for elected officials. It's not a matter of family first or family values. When I hear you say that, Senator Klaus, what I'm hearing you say is that women do not belong in public service. Women belong in the home with their children. And once the children are out and the child rearing is done, then you are allowed to run for office because that's family first to you. Family first to me is setting an example for my child by rising to a position of leadership in a way that she's been able to grow up with and see in her home, and I'm very proud of that. So colleagues, I urge you to continue this fight next year. I think this is something for a conservative to move across the goalpost, which has happened to me many times before here. And that would be a win for everybody. So, Mr. President, I'll withdraw this amendment. Thank you.
So ordered.